The sun blazed mercilessly over the manicured courts of the prestigious Everwood Tennis Academy, where the scent of freshly cut grass mingled with the sharp tang of tennis balls being smashed and sliced through the humid air. This weekend, like many before, was alive with the echoes of rackets striking taut strings, players' footfalls pounding against the polished clay, and the murmur of wealthy parents chatting behind designer sunglasses, their voices laced with casual critiques and idle boasts about trophies, coaches, and the future careers of their children. Yet amidst the polished smiles and whispered alliances, a quiet storm was brewing that no one could have anticipated. Maya and Marcus, inseparable twins known not just for their near-perfect synchronization on court, but for the simmering fire behind their calm exteriors, stood side by side at the edge of the main court, their matching navy blue uniforms clinging to lithe muscular frames glistening with sweat under the fierce sun. Their dark skin shone like polished onyx, smooth and unyielding, a striking contrast to the sea of pale faces and designer tennis whites around them. From the first moment they arrived, the twins were acutely aware that their presence sent ripples through the tightly knit community of Everwood, a place where pedigree and privilege often spoke louder than talent or determination. The twins' bond was almost telepathic. As they warmed up, Marcus tossed a ball gently into the air, and Maya's racket struck it with measured precision, their movements fluid, rehearsed, yet fiercely alive with competitive spirit. Though they were newcomers to this elite enclave, they carried themselves with quiet confidence, eyes sharp and unflinching beneath their sweatbands, as if challenging anyone who dared to judge their place here without knowing the battles they'd fought just to get this far. The twins knew the stakes. They had heard whispers, the cutting comments masked as jokes, the sideways glances that made it clear some of the academy's regulars saw them as intruders, outsiders who didn't fit the mold of polished privilege. And none embodied that exclusion more than the Reynolds siblings, Jake and Lindsay, whose names were practically etched into the academy's history as champions, socialites, and unapologetic gatekeepers of this world of white picket fences and perfect serves. Jake was tall and broad-shouldered, his blonde hair slicked back and his gaze sharp with entitlement. Lindsay, equally poised, carried herself with a practiced grace that masked the icy disdain she reserved for anyone who wasn't part of their inner circle. As Maya and Marcus stepped onto the court, the Reynolds siblings' smirks tightened, their jaws clenched in barely concealed irritation. "Those kids don't belong here," Lindsay muttered, loud enough for a few nearby players to catch her tone dripping with disdain. Jake, ball in hand, approached with the slow confidence of someone used to command and control, his eyes narrowing as they locked onto the twins. "This isn't your playground," he said, voice low but venomous, a warning wrapped in arrogance. "Back off if you know what's good for you." The words hung heavy in the air, a gauntlet thrown down with deliberate cruelty designed to intimidate and exclude. Maya's eyes flicked to Marcus, their silent communication a mix of resolve and calm that belied the adrenaline pulsing beneath their skin. They said nothing in response, but their silence spoke volumes, their composure a shield against the storm of entitlement swirling around them. Around the court, players and coaches paused, sensing the electric tension, the clash of worlds that transcended the game itself. This was more than a simple rivalry. It was a collision of identities, histories, and expectations. The twins had spent years honing their craft in less glamorous, less forgiving environments, where respect had to be earned with sweat and heart rather than lineage or luxury. Here, in Everwood, the rules were different, or so Jake and Lindsay believed. But Maya and Marcus had never been ones to bow to unwarranted authority or social hierarchies. The twins' mother had told them often, "They might have their courts and their silver spoons, but you have your strength and your spirit. Never forget who you are." And today, that strength was ready to be tested. As the coach blew his whistle signaling the start of the session, the twins moved with fluid grace to their positions, every muscle coiled with focus. The first serves were exchanged with a quiet intensity, the sound of ball meeting string sharp and crisp. Jake's serve was powerful, but Marcus returned it with equal force, the rally unfolding like a dance of wills. Lindsay's shots were quick and precise, but Maya anticipated each volley, her footwork a blur, her eyes burning with determination. The court became a battleground, the unspoken war between entitlement and resilience, playing out with every swing. Whispers floated through the sidelines. Did you see how they moved like pros? Where did these kids come from? They're not just good, they're something else. But the Reynolds siblings didn't hear the murmurs. They were too consumed by the need to maintain dominance, their faces hardening with each lost point. They had underestimated the twins, thinking their smooth smiles and quiet demeanor hid no threat. But Maya and Marcus were anything but ordinary. Beneath the surface of their calm was a fierce competitiveness forged in adversity, a drive fueled by years of proving their worth in places where prejudice and doubt had been daily opponents. The twins had battled through neighborhoods where access to courts was limited and support even rarer. Their skills had been sharpened not just by practice, but by the fire of proving themselves time and again to those who wanted to write them off. And now in this world of polished marble and tailored blazers, they were rewriting the rules. The sun climbed higher, sweat pouring down their backs as the session wore on. The other kids watched in growing admiration as the twins dominated rallies, their every movement precise and powerful. The Reynolds siblings' sneers faltered, replaced by a flicker of unease, but pride wouldn't allow them to back down. Not yet. "You think you can just walk in here and take over?" Lindsay spat during a brief break, her voice low and sharp. Maya met her gaze steadily, the twins' calm aura unwavering. "We don't take over, we earn our place." The words were simple, but their meaning echoed louder than any roar. Jake scoffed but said nothing, tossing the ball into the air again, his hands trembling slightly, though no one else noticed. The tennis coach, sensing the undercurrents, watched closely, torn between maintaining order and wanting to see how this showdown would unfold. As the session ended, Maya and Marcus gathered their belongings, the murmurs around them shifting from suspicion to respect. The twins had made their presence known, not through loud declarations but through undeniable skill and quiet dignity. The Reynolds siblings retreated with stiff shoulders, the first cracks in their armor beginning to show. Maya glanced at Marcus, a small smile tugging at her lips. "This is just the beginning," she whispered, her voice full of promise. Marcus nodded, the fire in his eyes burning brighter than the sun overhead. The battle for respect and recognition was only starting, and the twins were ready for whatever came next, on these courts and beyond. The simmering tension between Maya and Marcus and the Reynolds siblings escalated with every passing drill, each encounter thickening the charged atmosphere that clung to the courts like the summer heat, turning what was supposed to be a routine practice into a high-stakes battlefield where every glance, every swing of the racket, and every whispered word carried the weight of unspoken grudges and simmering hostilities. From the moment the twins had stepped on the court that morning, their quiet competence had unsettled the Reynolds siblings, Jake and Lindsay, who had built their reputations not only on raw talent, but on a fortress of entitlement and social dominance that allowed them to dismiss anyone who dared to challenge their reign. Now, as drills progressed and the group circled around the court like spectators at a gladiator match, Jake and Lindsay's tactics became ever more aggressive and insidious, cutting off the twins mid-rally, stepping too close to their swings, blocking angles with calculated arrogance, and whispering threats thinly veiled as friendly advice, meant to unnerve and destabilize. "How you don't want to get hurt trying to outplay us," Lindsay murmured with a chilling smile that never reached her cold eyes, while Jake, cocky and unshakable, leaned close during a break to say, "This court belongs to us. Remember that." The twins, who had weathered far worse in their lives, felt the hostile energy pressing against them like a physical force. But rather than crumble, their resolve hardened. Maya's eyes flashed with fierce determination, her grip on the racket tightening as she tapped Marcus's shoulder in silent solidarity, her message clear. They would not be intimidated, and they would not back down. Around them, the other. Players and coaches sensed the electric undercurrent. The coach, a man who had always prided himself on fairness and discipline, was now visibly uncomfortable as he watched the Reynolds siblings' unchecked behavior spiral into something more venomous than mere arrogance, a deliberate attempt to undermine and exclude. When the coach stepped in to warn Jake to respect the rules and his fellow players, Jake's dismissive grin and casual retort, "We run this court," cut through the air like a slap, and Lindsay's smirk only deepened as she added, "Maybe, if you know your place, you won't get hurt," the threat hanging like smoke in the tense air. The twins exchanged a look, their calm facade unbroken, but their minds racing. They had faced discrimination, hostility, and outright aggression before, but this was a new battlefield, one where social status wielded as much power as physical skill, and every move was scrutinized under the harsh light of unspoken rules. Yet Maya and Marcus were more than just skilled players. They were warriors shaped by adversity, their every serve, volley, and footstep a testament to years of proving their worth against the odds. Their calm presence was the eye of the storm, a silent but undeniable force that unsettled the Reynolds siblings more than any words could. Whispers passed quietly among the other players, some skeptical, some impressed, recognizing that these twins were not just new faces, but a challenge to the established hierarchy. The academy, known for its polished veneer and unspoken social contracts, was witnessing a quiet revolution in real time, and the twins were at the heart of it. As the session wore on, Jake and Lindsay's aggressive maneuvers grew more desperate, their taunts sharper, but Maya and Marcus met every challenge with a composed strength that only intensified the brewing showdown. The coach, torn between his duty to maintain peace and his growing respect for the twins' resilience, kept a watchful eye but hesitated to step further. Knowing that this confrontation was about far more than tennis, it was about respect, identity, and breaking barriers. In a world that often sought to keep people like Maya and Marcus out. When the final whistle blew, signaling the end of practice, the tension had not dissipated but transformed into a charged promise of battles to come. The twins packed their bags with steady hands, their eyes meeting once again in silent agreement. They had made their mark, and now the real fight for their place on the court and beyond was just beginning. The final drill of the day was announced with a sharp blast of the coach's whistle. A doubles match, designed to not only test skill, but to quell the simmering tensions that had electrified the courts all afternoon. And as the players rearranged themselves under the glaring afternoon sun, the atmosphere grew thick with anticipation and unspoken challenge. On one side stood Jake and Lindsay Reynolds, their posture radiating an arrogance born of years dominating these very courts and a lifetime steeped in entitlement, their polished smiles barely masking the fierce determination to crush any threat. To their supremacy, while opposite them, almost statuesque in their calm, were Maya and Marcus, the twins whose quiet confidence and near telepathic synergy had unsettled everyone, but most of all, the Reynolds siblings. The crowd of players, coaches, and parents gathered around the perimeter of the court, the buzz of whispered bets and hushed conversations filling the air, all eyes fixed on the unfolding scene as the first serve flew over the net with blistering speed. Jake's delivery a cannonball that seemed to shake the very air, his practice technique honed through years of training and privilege, but Marcus met the ball with an explosive return that caught Jake off guard. The rally unfolding like a tightly choreographed dance, where every movement was calculated and lightning fast, the twins moving as one entity, Marcus anticipating Jake's every strike with uncanny precision, cutting off angles and forcing errors, while Maya's agile footwork and razor-sharp reflexes allowed her to intercept Lindsay's quick volleys with returns that sliced through the air like streaks of lightning, each stroke a message written in sweat and skill that challenged the Reynolds siblings' arrogance point by point. As the match progressed, the crowd's initial murmur of surprise grew into an intense, captivated silence, the spectacle of the twins' performance commanding attention and respect in equal measure, their seamless teamwork dismantling the Reynolds' confidence layer by layer, their calm determination a stark contrast to Jake's growing frustration and Lindsay's tightening jaw, the entitled smirks fading from their faces as each lost point gnawed at their dominance, while Maya and Marcus's focus never wavered, their shared glances and subtle nods conveying an unbreakable bond forged through years of shared struggle and triumph, a bond that fueled every precise serve and return, turning the court into a proving ground where resilience met raw talent in a battle that transcended tennis. The rally lengths grew longer, the points more intense, the sweat pouring freely as both sides pushed their limits, But the twins' unwavering composure and flawless execution left the Reynolds siblings scrambling, their attempts at intimidation, rendered powerless against a force they had failed to recognize until it was too late. And when the final ball sailed just out of Jake's reach, landing squarely on his side of the court and sealing the victory, the stunned silence that followed shattered like glass, replaced by a roaring explosion of cheers and applause from onlookers who had witnessed not only a match, but a moment of profound upheaval. Jake and Lindsay stood frozen, their disbelief etched into their faces as the reality settled like a cold wave. They had underestimated Maya and Marcus, the fierce players who had arrived with quiet confidence, but left with a victory that would ripple through the academy, rewriting the rules of respect and challenging the very foundation of entitlement they had clung to. The twins, sweat-drenched but radiant, exchanged a brief victorious glance before nodding respectfully toward their defeated opponents, their humility a stark contrast to the Reynolds siblings' stunned silence. And as the crowd dispersed, whispers of admiration and newfound respect followed in their wake, marking this match not only as a turning point in the ongoing rivalry, but as the day when Maya and Marcus firmly claimed their place among the Academy's elite, proving that skill, resilience, and unity could topple even the most deeply entrenched power structures on and off the court, their victory a testament to the strength born of perseverance and the unyielding spirit that had brought them here, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead with heads held high and hearts ablaze. The aftermath of that intense, unforgettable match sent shockwaves through every corner of Everwood Tennis Academy, rippling far beyond the sun-drenched courts where Maya and Marcus had so decisively dismantled the Reynolds siblings' reign, shifting the very atmosphere from one of entrenched entitlement and quiet exclusion to a tentative, hard-won recognition that would reverberate for weeks, months, perhaps years to come. Jake and Lindsay, once untouchable figures cloaked in arrogance and social privilege, now wore expressions that betrayed a slow and reluctant cracking of their once impenetrable facade, their confident smirks replaced by grudging respect tinged with disbelief as they grappled with the reality that the twins they had so thoroughly underestimated were not only exceptional athletes, but formidable individuals who commanded dignity and strength both on and off the court, a revelation that unsettled their sense of superiority and forced them to reconsider the harsh attitudes they had long wielded as weapons. The coach, a man often stoic and reserved, approached Maya and Marcus with an unmistakable warmth and a rare smile that spoke volumes. This nod of approval was not just for their skill or victory, but for the character and resilience they had displayed, qualities that embodied the true spirit of competition and leadership the Academy aspired to foster, but had seldom seen so vividly embodied in such young players. Around them, the Academy's social landscape began to shift subtly but surely, as fellow students who had observed the day's events with curiosity and awe tentatively approached the twins, some eager to learn from their evident talent, others drawn by a desire to connect with those who had so boldly challenged the status quo, and still others simply curious to hear the story behind their rise, the narrative of perseverance, strength, and unshakable unity that had propelled them from outsiders to respected figures in this insular world. The Reynolds siblings, now diminished but not defeated, retreated into a quieter posture, their previous boldness replaced by a cautious distance, and from that day forward, they never again dared to threaten or belittle Maya and Marcus, their behavior tempered by the stark lesson that respect could not be demanded through entitlement alone, but must be earned through integrity and true skill. As the sun began to dip low, casting long shadows across the courts, Maya and Marcus packed up their rackets and gear with steady hands, their hearts swelling not just with pride over their victory, but with the deeper satisfaction that came from breaking barriers and challenging long-held prejudices. And as Marcus caught Maya's eye, a subtle yet powerful smile playing at the corners of his lips, he said quietly, "We don't just play tennis. We make statements." Words that captured not only the triumph of that day, but the larger journey they were embarking upon, a journey defined by courage, resilience, and a refusal to be sidelined by anyone's expectations or biases. Maya's smile in response was bright and knowing, filled with the promise of battles yet to come, not just on the courts of Everwood, but in every arena they would enter, affirming that this victory was merely the prologue to a story of determination Dignity and change that would resonate far beyond the lines of the tennis court, inspiring others to stand tall, challenge injustice, and embrace the power of their own voices and talents with unyielding strength.